good afternoon, depending on where you're calling from. Today, Panorama Consulting Group brings you how to drive frontline revenue growth with CPQ software, featuring Ron Eisman of Infor. Ron, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you, Samuel.
All right, now before we get started, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your role at Infor?
Absolutely. I'm Vice President and General Manager of our Infor CPQ business here. I've been in the industry for a little over 30 years. Been with this particular solution for about 20 years. The solution was acquired almost 8 years ago now by Infor. Today, I'm ultimately responsible for, as General Manager, the overall business, including sales, marketing, strategy, the product direction, as well as our overall implementation and customer success.
All right, so you have pretty much a full plate there.
Absolutely.
So can you tell us, really for those who are pretty fresh to CPQ software, what does it stand for, and can you provide a brief explanation of what CPQ actually is?
Sure. Yeah, CPQ stands for Configure, Price, Quote. And traditionally, CPQ solutions helped companies support the quoting and ordering process for complex products and services, both by internal salespeople as well as external channel partners, including dealers and distributors. But today it's becoming more than that. So through technologies and visual configuration capabilities, CPQ is helping companies, including manufacturers, more effectively reach their end customers in the digital world with rich, engaging experiences. And this has been particularly important over the last 12 months in the environment of COVID, and particularly expected to continue even after that.
Okay, so you mentioned that there's a sales force involved with it. Is it mainly for sales force? I suppose my question is, how can a company benefit from CPQ software? Like, what are they looking to get out of it?
Ultimately, what they're looking for is to implement a CPQ solution that's going to help them increase their sales, decrease their costs, and differentiate their brand in the marketplace. So it starts on the front end with first helping end customers learn about the products and services that a company or a manufacturer offers. So these days, prospective buyers do a tremendous amount of research online. And there's statistics that say even before COVID, 50% of buyers were identifying the particular solutions that they wanted to buy before ever reaching out to engage in a sales cycle. So it's critical for manufacturers today to have a rich, engaging online experience to allow prospective customers to experience the full breadth and capabilities of their solutions. Or companies might end up losing sales that they didn't even know that they had a prospective customer looking to buy, as well as then extending that through the back end for manufacturing fulfillment process. And the key is to be able to deliver all of these requirements across the enterprise with a single source of product knowledge and a single solution that can be tailored to meet all of those user experiences throughout the entire process.
Now you mentioned a single solution. Is CPQ good for a SaaS company, let's say, as a third-party add-on or something like that? And how does Infor work with a SaaS software that doesn't necessarily maybe Infor not the primary ERP provider?
Absolutely. So our solution is works with any other solution that's out there. It was developed to be agnostic of the application that it's being integrated with. We do have standard integration with almost all of the leading ERP solutions, CRM solutions, e-commerce solutions. We've also done a lot of field integration for any number of other solutions. So whether that is on-premise applications, cloud or SaaS applications, it doesn't really matter. Our solution is designed to work with any of them.
Okay. And are there any e-commerce or CRM or ERP platforms that CPQ applications work better with? Exclusion from, like, say, Infor, because there are a lot of different solutions out there. But in your experience, are there certain platforms that work better with CPQ as far as configuration over others?
Yeah, so from our perspective, we have customers that really run the spectrum from a variety of different solutions, whether that is Infor solutions from an ERP or CRM perspective, whether that is solutions from Oracle or Microsoft, SAP, Salesforce on the ERP and the CRM fronts, or e-commerce providers like Magento, Hybris, et cetera. So from our perspective, we've got, like I said, standard integration with most of those. I would say, as far as is there one that it works better with? Not really. Again, the solution was originally defined to be completely independent and agnostic of the ERP. So that's the way Infor CPQ was built, and that's one of the advantages that of being an independent company previously. It was designed to be easily integrated into anything else. And one of the things when I talk about integration, just to maybe speak to that for just a moment, I think it's important that that companies look at the integration and the depth and the breadth of that integration. So when we talk integration, it's not just, hey, we can throw some data over the wall and the system on the other side can pick it up and do something with it. We actually look much deeper than that from an integration perspective, so that it's really almost our solution becomes embedded into the applications that we're tying into. So as an example, when we're talking about ERP integration, we've identified over 150 points of integration. So when we evaluate building integration between CPQ and a given ERP platform as standard supported integration, we look at that full breadth. And regardless of whether that's an Infor ERP solution or a non-Infor ERP solution, and then same thing on the CRM side, right? We have integration with not only Infor CRM, but also Microsoft and Salesforce CRM, and I've already mentioned some of the e-commerce as well.
Okay. Now, Infor is typically viewed as an ERP provider. And Infor CPQ is only Infor. Is it only for Infor ERP customers?
No, absolutely not. As a matter of fact, one of the things that's very important to us is continuing close relationships with our customers. We have a customer advisory board, which is one of the major inputs into our product direction. That customer advisory board, actually 7 of the 10 members on that executive customer advisory board do not run an Infor ERP. So that's spread across Oracle, Microsoft, Epicor, et cetera. So it definitely is not just for Infor ERP solutions. And as a matter of fact, right, as evidenced by our advisory board, the majority of our customers run something other than an Infor ERP.
Okay, and since that's not the case, right, you can pretty much go with any other provider as a third party add-on. How is Infor CPQ solution unique, and how does Infor specifically support the strategy to remain unique amongst all the other providers that are out there?
So I think there's 2 things that make Infor CPQ unique in the market. One is, again, we built it to have a very open architecture and be easy to integrate. Not every solution is that way, and I think that's one of the things that's allowed us to have the deep integration with a wide variety of solutions, most of which that are not Infor solutions, yet we've been able to deliver that. But the other big thing is, when I look at CPQ for the enterprise and I look at the breadth of CPQ today, as I've talked about before, expanding outside of the more traditional quoting, buying, and selling process that might be for internal salespeople or for dealers and distributors, and now on the front end, extending that out to the market awareness and the interest generation side. So being able to take that same base of product knowledge and that same solution and tying it into your corporate website and have it look and feel just like your corporate website. Tie it into your e-commerce solution and have it seamlessly fit within e-commerce. Have that tied into your CRM solution and have it look and feel like part of that CRM, an extension of that CRM. Having a dealer distributor portal for your external channels to be able to sell and deal with multi-level pricing and margin calculations and so on. and then tying it into the back end, not just into your ERP, but also tying it into various CAD systems. And from an ERP perspective, then the whole fulfillment process of dynamic bills of materials and routings, and generating through that whole process, and doing all of that with a single source of the truth, if you will, a single source of the product knowledge for an organization, but having the user experience in each one of those areas fit what the users expect given where they're accessing it from. That's really our uniqueness in the market, and there are very few, if any, other solutions that are able to do that.
I do think that what you mentioned with making it look like it's native to whatever solution that you're going on to is actually really important. I think for the end users, just for streamlining things and making them feel more secure and comfortable with whatever they plan to order. Now, Infor is it's been in development for quite a while, Infor CPQ, and you've released a significant amount of capabilities in the last 2 years. I'm not sure if that native look is one of them, but could you go ahead and share a couple of them that maybe have helped solve some business challenges for some of your customers when they switch over to Infor CPQ?
Sure. So yeah, as I mentioned, a lot of that ability to deliver that unique experience for each one of those different areas, as well as tying into things like mobile devices. So now I want to be able to use this on my phone or on my tablet, potentially even in the home with the homeowner if I'm selling products that are geared towards that, or on the site with the construction site, or in the field with the farmer if I'm selling agricultural equipment. So having that mobile capability as well. So that's one of the things that we've delivered here over the last few years. Overall, just from a taking advantage of the cloud architecture, yet having it still support a ability to tailor that experience to exactly what the user needs to see based on the application and the environment that they're accessing it from. But then also beginning to look at things like visual configuration and delivering rich, engaging visual configuration, dynamic 3D configuration, so that I can see what I'm configuring, and not just as static drawings or kind of line drawings, but actually something that I can interact with. And then taking it the next step and saying, okay, now I want to see, if I'm looking at, as an example, something for my home, I want to see that with augmented reality and use the power of some of my mobile device to see what exactly that product is going to look like in my home or in the space, or even looking at things like virtual reality. Those are all some of the areas that we've been working on and delivered and continue to expand our capabilities around, as well as then on the back end, looking at things like how do we leverage analytics and deep analytics and tying into artificial intelligence and machine learning, and what role can that play as we look at the solutions that we need to solve some of the business problems for our customers.
Okay, you guys are focusing a lot more on the mobile workforce, and I have a question, because we had a client a few years ago that had a mobile workforce, and they didn't always have internet access, so that would cause some issues with fulfilling the orders or making the correct configurations. So does Infor CPQ address this? So if they don't have internet access, say they're out in the middle of the field with a farmer trying to configure something for him, and they don't have internet access, can Infor CPQ handle that? And if so, how do they how does everything sync up with that?
Yeah, great question. So, historically, that's something that's been a challenge, particularly now when we're talking about a cloud solution and how that works if I don't have an internet connection. And one of the things that we've been able to achieve recently, we're actively working on this with some of our customers, is in those cases, because we do have a number of customers that do in-home sales, whether that's in refurbishments, or whether that's out at the site for the job site, or the out in the field, as you indicated, where the internet connection might be spotty, might be unreliable, or they may not have access. And how do we leverage that core capability to be able to provide value to them in that instance? The challenge in the past has been the engine that we have that drives CPQ, the ability for that to run on a phone, and was that capable? And I'd say until recently, it wasn't capable of doing so, and we would have to, in essence, build a separate app for the phone or the mobile device to be able to do that, which is unfortunate, because the last thing we want to do is to have our customers have to have multiple configuration solutions across the enterprise. That's one of the biggest challenges that we're trying to solve with a lot of our customers, is to help them reduce down to a single for the entire enterprise. So what we've been able to do recently is, and we're working through this with some of our customers, is to leverage our current CPQ solution and configurator to actually run natively on the mobile device, so that you can leverage the power of a single solution, a single set of rules, and then that is able to download onto the mobile device, execute there, and then when you sync back up, able to pass that data back up to the cloud and keep that synchronized.
How do these new capabilities support this rapidly changing buying and selling environments, for example, in manufacturing, and particularly other industries as well? Because this is going to be something more than just for manufacturing.
Yeah, absolutely. So, that's one of the things where traditionally, I would say our history, if we go back over the 20 years, we've been heavily focused on manufacturing, and still, I would say the majority of our customers are in manufacturing, but we are branching out and have continued to, particularly since we were acquired by Infor 8 years ago, into a lot of other markets. So as we look at the broader capabilities, and we look at visual configuration as an example, which is one of the most important capabilities today, right? Particularly in a COVID environment where people aren't going into the showrooms and into the stores as much as they were before. So how do you provide to them a similar engaging experience when they're sitting at their home in front of their desk, or at their laptop or mobile device? So that's where visual configuration can really help with that, of giving them an immersive experience with real-time 3D, as well as potentially extended capabilities like augmented reality in that environment. And that's critical not just for manufacturing, but when you look outside of it, anytime that I want to be able to visualize what I'm looking for. So whether you're talking about apparel, or golf equipment, or a number of different applications and industries that we're looking at, where visual configuration is very important. So yeah, you're right. It's not just manufacturing, but anywhere where the customer wants or needs to see the product that they're looking to buy, and be able to verify that, yes, that's exactly what I'm looking for, right? So you think about the breadth of industries that would apply to, and it's really kind of broadening the need for CPQ into those areas to bring those core capabilities there.
Okay. Now, you said majority of your clients are manufacturing, but you do have others. I would assume, and correct me if I'm wrong, are there standard CPQ configurations for different industries, and does Infor CPQ provide those best practices to potential clients as well?
Absolutely. So one of the things overall as Infor, we are very focused on bringing capabilities, not just at kind of a general or universal level, but bringing those down to specifically what individual industries and even micro vertical industries require. So there are some capabilities that are in the solution that are available specifically to try to address unique requirements in certain industries. But also through our implementation process, we have what we term implementation accelerators that are being built specifically for individual industries, to be able to allow those customers in those industries to get a jump start to use things that are very common to their individual industry.
Okay. And and so you do have kind of like a template, and you have the research inside of best practices for different industries. The other question that I have, since you did bring up implementation, is there a specific methodology that Infor CPQ uses when implementing for a client? And there are obviously different ones. You have your agile and your big bang and your waterfall. Um, what do you find best works for the clients, or are they different for each individual?
I would say there isn't necessarily one size fits all, but typically when I think about what works best for CPQ is it's very much of an agile or iterative type of approach to it. So I would say that's most commonly what we will implement with our customers and recommend to our customers. Although if they have want to take a different approach, obviously we'll work with them on that. But by default, typically we'll want to take a very agile or iterative approach to it. And what that allows us to do is to try to get faster and more rapid time to value, right? So that we can go through rapid prototyping and potentially even say let's phase the project and scope it down such that we can deliver certain pieces in production very quickly, so they can start to receive that value from the implementation while we're working on other phases. So it can be very iterative, either in the internal project timeline, or perhaps even with smaller go lives to begin to get more rapid time to value.
Okay, and what kind of deployment models are available for Infor CPQ? For example, cloud premise, or sorry, on-premise, hybrid. Is there a preference as far as Infor goes?
Again, since we've been doing this for almost 20 years, we've got customers that are a wide variety of different deployment options. Historically, it was all on premise, but more recently, I would say the vast majority of our customers are deploying in the cloud, and I think that's really kind of shifted over the last couple of years, where we've kind of reached that tipping point, and now everybody sees the value of the cloud. We're now helping a lot of our customers that traditionally were more on premise to move to the cloud, because it opens up a wide range of new capabilities for us. So it's not just cloud ROI and TCO compared to on-premise from a technical hardware perspective, but from the solution itself. So we've been able to take advantage of a lot of cloud capabilities to dramatically improve the solution itself. So it's a significantly improved value proposition for our customers when you look at all the things that we're able to do based on that, all the way from, again, the visual configuration, performance improvements, taking advantage of other capabilities within Infor, workflow capabilities, and so on, that we've been able to bring to the market here. So for the past probably 18 to 24 months, most of our newer customers have been looking at cloud, but we do have a lot of customers that, again, were more historically on premise. So helping them to make that move as well, and potentially phasing that in. So we do have options for a hybrid deployment as well, depending on what makes the most sense to them to help them get to that ultimate goal.
Okay, so even if they are, their main ERP system is on premise, you can still, say, hey, we'll provide this as a cloud application and still connect with it relatively with ease. Is that correct?
Absolutely, and that's true regardless of whether we're talking about Infor ERPs or non-Infor ERPs. We've built that integration to, again, allow our customers to take full advantage of all the new CPQ capabilities that we've been able to bring to the market in the cloud, even if the solutions that we're integrating with, like ERP, are still on premise, because that's oftentimes is a much heavier lift for customers to take their ERP to the cloud, but they want to start to benefit from all the great capabilities of CPQ. They want to do that in the cloud. So we've been able to deliver that and build that integration. And again, the very deep integration that we bring to the market, which is different than anybody else out there, and do that regardless of whether their ERP is on-prem or in the cloud, and still allowing them to take full advantage of all the capabilities that CPQ offers.
Okay. And are there any, say, functionality differences when you implement on premise versus in the cloud? Anything significant?
Yeah, I think there are again when we look at what we've developed, and one of the things that we had to decide is we're at that point and building our cloud solution a few years ago of do we just take the on-premise solution and deploy that to the cloud, which probably would not take full advantage of all the new capabilities, or do we leverage all the new capabilities that are there in the cloud, even though then that might not be directly portable back to our on-premise customers. And we didn't want to limit the future for our customers.
Hmm.
So we decided to take that approach of let's build this next generation solution in the cloud, but try to make it as easy as possible for our customers to migrate to that on their timeline, and based on the approach that makes the most sense for them. So we're not, don't have to force any of our customers to do there. We've got flexibility in how we help them migrate, but we're not limiting the new capabilities based on trying to tie it back to on-premise, where some of those things like visual configuration, isn't available, from an on-premise perspective, and is much more, the new technology is much more readily accessible from a cloud perspective, as
Hmm.
well as then tying into other capabilities like analytics and artificial intelligence. So I think when we look at the longer term future, the majority of our customers, and I think that's why over the last 12 to 20 or 18 to 24 months, that the majority of our customers are moving forward in the cloud because of those enhanced capabilities.
So you're really just trying to make sure that you're forward looking and not becoming stagnant with the existing technology today, but kind of looking at what's coming down the line. That you mentioned machine learning and artificial intelligence. Is there anything that you wanted to mention as far as on the short term and long term horizon, specifically for Infor CPQ, and anything that you can actually say? Should I say you don't want to, mention anything before you have a release, but is there anything that you can say as far as in the short term and long term, what's coming down the pike with Infor CPQ?
Yeah, I think that it's continuing with a lot of the capabilities that we've started to bring to the market, and again the visual configuration and continuing to build and expand upon that. It's so critical based on today's market, almost regardless of what industry that you're in, to be able to reach out to your end customers and prospects, right, and be able to engage with them, because people are out there doing that research every day, right? We all do it at home. We're interested in buying something, particularly over the last 12 months where people aren't going out as much, right? More and more research in the digital world. So making sure that as the companies that are looking to determine how they deliver those capabilities, CPQ is critical for that. So helping our customers do that, the visual configuration is a big piece of that. So continuing to build on that, expand on that, continuing to expand out that full enterprise message, right? And that full enterprise capability of allowing, one solution to support all of these different areas of the business and all of these different touch points with customers with the experience that the users expect. So somebody that is browsing for a product, wanting to understand the breadth and depth of capabilities of that particular product on the web, their experience is going to be very different than the person who is the customer service representative who needs to make a change to an order inside of ERP, right? But both of those areas, both ends of the spectrum, require the use of CPQ to ensure that that product information is consistently represented, and that there's no drops where I've seen customers that have 3, 5, 10 different solutions in different pockets of the business, whether that's different divisions, whether that's one that's kind of on the website, one that's in CRM, one that they have in e-commerce. They've got another one for their dealer portal. They've got something else in ERP, and trying to maintain all of those solutions becomes very, very difficult and costly but also has a very big impact on time to market. So when they look to introduce new capabilities, they can't be agile and flexible because they have to make updates across the board, and they have to do a lot of testing, or there might be a lot of manual handoffs and a lot of potential errors that get introduced. Whereas if they can deploy that with a single enterprise CPQ solution underpinning all of those applications, that is tremendously valuable to those customers, and allows them to get the market much more quickly. And as we know, right, time to market is critical. Right, the faster that you can get new capabilities to market, the more likely that you're going to grab market share. So continuing to expand on that, as well as then continuing to leverage the use of analytics, artificial intelligence, in driving, again, a lot of that intelligent decision making through the process. So those are some of the major areas that we are continuing to work on, and continuing to work with the analyst community, with our customers and our prospects, to understand how do we drive more value and solve more of our customers' challenges with those capabilities and technologies.
Right. Now you mentioned, bringing everything into a single system and getting away from, a lot of these, I guess you could call them best of breed, but they only do specific functions, right? You see a lot of that in Panorama. We're getting a lot of calls on this as well, because with the recent pandemic, people have to cut costs. So I would assume that a single solution would be less expensive than, say, 6 different solutions, not just from a licensing standpoint, but also from a time consumption standpoint, and how long it takes to actually do anything. So the question that I have is, on average, how long is a CPQ implementation? And I know that can vary depending on how many different systems you're replacing. But if we were to average it out for, say, the standard manufacturing client, what kind of timeline are we looking at?
Yeah, and to back up for a moment on the comment that you just made around, you used the term best of breed solution, but I think another way to think about it is these point solutions, where there are these point solutions that a company could take to plug into each one of these areas, where the time for very quickly to get a point solution implemented might seem faster and cheaper, but then when you start to look at the longer term picture of being able to maintain all of those throughout the organization, as well as dealing with the fact that those point solutions don't talk to one another, which naturally leads to errors and issues, the hidden costs very quickly add up to overwhelm the perceived savings that there might be from implementing just a point solution in this one little area that seems like a simple thing, but becomes much more complex when you start to scale that out. From an implementation perspective, again, as you said, it really does vary widely depending on the scope of the implementation, as well as we talk about taking a very iterative approach. So we've had customers that have, from the time that they started the project to go live, was in the range of 4 to 6 weeks. To actually go live with rules and a solution to drive out their main pain points, which were around the quoting and sales process. Now, that's not necessarily going to be a full enterprise picture, but that's when you start looking at how can we do this in more of an agile, iterative process. When you look at a full implementation, and again, this can vary very widely, I would say that typically you're looking more in the range of 3 to 6 months. But you can start to get value sooner, and then depending on the scope of the project, and depending on whether you're talking about a $30 million company or a $30 billion company, right? It can definitely take a much longer time if we're looking to do something on a very global scale. Multiple divisions, many product lines, potentially even integrating in with several different, if not 5 or 10 different ERPs and CRM solutions and so on. Obviously, that can be a much longer program. But the key thing is how do we break that down into more bite-sized chunks that we can be very successful with and ensure that success through the process, but also have the opportunity to say, let's have those as kind of mini go lives to begin to receive value from the solution before waiting for some massive big bang at the end of the project.
Mm-hmm. Now, you said, you could expect, 4 to 6 months, and that's typically what we see as well at Panorama, for the mid-sized companies. Um, Another question that I have is, when you're talking about the return on investment on these, right? You're getting rid of, say, 4 to 6 different solutions. You're putting a single one in. You spend 4 to 6 months, let's say 4 to 6 months of implementing. What is a realistic expectation for those of our listeners that are driving down the numbers, right? Like the CFOs that are really concerned about the dollar on this. What is a realistic expectation to start seeing your return on investment go into the positive with a CPQ installation?
Yeah, the good news is I think that you can begin to see those benefits very, very quickly on both the front end side to be able to drive more quotes, drive more orders, drive that top line revenue growth, but also on the back end side. So yeah, oftentimes our customers as well are looking to streamline processes, to remove manual steps, or to remove extra people from the process that are more just supporting the sales process, where we can automate that and let them focus on more value added activities to continue to further drive top line growth. So you can see those benefits very, very quickly. If we're looking at the time frame where we say, okay, it's 4 to 6 months to implement, then very quickly thereafter we'll start to see those benefits and offset that, where you'll start to see that return probably within the first 12 months. But then as you look out extended, right, over the 3 to 5 year time frame, you should expect to see 5 to 8 times return on that investment during that time frame. So it ramps up very quickly, and then I think begins to multiply rapidly through that time frame as well. And I think the benefits for CPQ are very, very tangible and very significant.
That's actually quite a good return, you could say.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I would say that generally speaking, because CPQ helps on both fronts, right? Both the sales growth and the operational efficiency side of things. When you couple those together, you can see some very dramatic returns quickly. And I would say that it is one of the highest returning solutions that's available.
Okay. Now, with that, speaking of doing the implementation, seeing your return, there's all the technical items, right? You're streamlining your process. You're removing excessive systems and replacing them with a single solution. There's the human side to that. So a lot of these single point solutions, they had a designated person that would manage it, and it's their baby, right? And maybe they've been doing it for 15 years. Are there any key organizational change management issues that a company should consider when they're implementing a CPQ solution?
Yeah, I think when you look at that, I think a few areas that come to mind. I mean, one is it's very important, when you're looking at what are going to be those key challenges that you're addressing, in what areas throughout the business. Do you have those key stakeholders involved very early on to define their requirements? Do you have some of those users involved up front to basically help validate the experience and the flow, and so on throughout that? But then when you look on the support side and the implementation side, organizationally going forward, making sure that you have the right people maintaining the right data. So one of the things that we do is we want our customers to be self-sufficient for the solution moving forward, right? We're in the business of helping them to implement the solution, to get their returns, and then allowing them to manage that and maintain that going forward, right? It's not our objective to be that gatekeeper, if you will, for the changes. We want to fully train and engage and hand over that capability to our customers so they can be fully self-sufficient. So as part of that within the organization, deciding who should own various data. One of the challenges that companies get into is oftentimes that falls to IT, and that's not necessarily the best place, right? It's better that that information be maintained in the areas of the business. So whether that's from the product experts that are maintaining some of the product knowledge, the pricing folks that are maintaining pricing data, and so on. So being able to distribute the maintenance of that data and the rules to the specific areas of the organization where that should reside, as opposed to all of that falling back to IT to try to maintain that. So that's one of the things that we'll work with our customers on, because the natural oftentimes is for IT to be the group that builds and maintains all of that, and that's not necessarily the best place.
And are there any other specifically for those who are considering a CPQ solution? Are there any other deciding factors that you come across quite a bit that people should really consider?
Yeah, I mean, I think overall, when you look at CPQ, it's taking that broader view, right? Looking at it holistically of where do you need to leverage this knowledge, right? And if you look at it more broadly, then you start to see very quickly why the point solution approach isn't the best one, right? Because now if you extend that out, now I've got 6, 8, 10 different solutions throughout the organization, all doing roughly the same thing, but completely different ways, maintained by different people. So my cost to license, build, and maintain is much higher. Now I have to figure out somehow, do I tie all these together, and is it a lot of dual entry and manual work there, or do I have to build a bunch of custom interfaces and so on to try to tie these disparate systems together? And that's the biggest thing of making sure that you're looking at it more holistically and broadly across the entire enterprise. So that's the main thing that we discuss with our customers is looking at CPQ as a true enterprise solution, and not just, hey, I need a point solution here, a point solution there, and so on, because that's ultimately going to be something that is very difficult and costly to maintain in the long term. Plus a lot of the hidden costs of it dramatically impacts agility and speed to market.
All right. Well, Ron, that's been a lot to wrap our minds around, and there's a lot more information I'm sure that you can provide. We are coming up on our time. Is there anything else that you'd like to highlight, either about CPQ or Infor, before we wrap up?
No, I appreciate the time. I think we've covered a lot here, and certainly, if anybody has any more questions, they can feel free to reach out to me, or if there's interest in doing a follow-up, would love to do that as well. It's an exciting space. It provides tremendous returns to our customers, so that excites me, right? And when I see the benefits that it ultimately provides there, a lot of new capabilities that are being released, and a lot more to come. So we appreciate the opportunity here to share some of that, and look forward to engaging with a lot of your listeners moving forward.
All right, definitely glad to have you, Ron. Thank you for attending and sharing your knowledge with us today. If you have any other additional questions, please feel free to reach out to us at info@panorama-consulting.com, or you can give us a call at 720-515-1377. We'll be happy to answer your questions about CPQ software and put you in touch with Ron Eisman with Infor. Thank you, everybody, and have a great rest of your week.